What's up, YouTube? It's Leo again, Coach White Belt, and today I'm going to be talking about something that is sort of considered a taboo in jiu-jitsu, and I don't really think it is. If you watch any of Ramsey Dewey's videos, you'll hear his opinion on it. That there's nothing wrong with using strength in jiu-jitsu, and I agree in the sense that you should, if all the differences between you winning and losing is using a bit of strength, then you should definitely use some strength, and you definitely, to improve as an athlete, should be sparring with some resistance. But what I want to talk about is actually how this relates to the improvement and development of your game in jiu-jitsu. And so I've had a few training partners that are quite a bit larger than I am, over 200 pounds, and I'm about 160 now. I've been 160 been able to hold it for about a week, and it was really hard to get here. For me, it was really hard to go up in weight, but I used to be about 140 pounds most of the time. And I would spar with these guys that were over 200 pounds and are quite a bit stronger than I am. And even now, they're pretty big compared to me, and they're pretty strong. And so when I'd spar with them when I was about 140 pounds, and this is true amongst the kids as well, that the larger they are, the more likely they are to go for neck cranks and headlocks and things like that. So they'll go for like kesagatame, where they've got you with their head in one arm and they hold onto your tricep with the other, and they sort of just squeeze your head. And the other being, another common position is for those who know the baseball choke, the no-gi baseball choke. So the way that you do it is you're in side control, and the one arm that's under the head, you connect your hands, and the other forearm goes into the neck. Well, one good way to do this is, if you have enough flexibility to get it there, then you do it straight from side control. But if you don't, then you walk around to north-south a little bit, and then that helps you to feed in the other forearm into the neck, and so it works really well as a choke once you get there. But there is another option, which is, if you can't get the angle, and if you can't work your way to north-south, you can't get the forearm in perfectly, so it sort of ends up sitting on the clavicle instead. And when that happens, what you can do is press down on it hard and pull up on the other one, just sort of torque your body to pull their head up, and it'll neck crank them. So this is something I ran into a lot with these larger guys for some time. And eventually, because I've done the baseball choke myself plenty of times, and I noticed when I couldn't get the correct position and I'd be trying to work on it, I would feel like my arm that's under the head, my forearm that's under the head, is pretty close to slipping off the back of the head. And so when I'd end up in this position with these larger guys, I would just push up on their arm from here, almost like a palm strike, just hit it completely off of my head, and it would just come right out. So I've developed some defense against these sort of moves. The ghost escape works really well for the kesagatame, if you can get your other arm free, the one that you need to underhook with. So these are moves that the larger kids will tend to use against the smaller kids, and this is true amongst the adults. Not so much with the upper belts. The upper belts really try to use less strength so that they know that it's their technique that's improving, and the technique that's really winning them the position and getting them the submission, as opposed to their advantage in strength. And this is true for pretty much everybody as they're new. You are not trying to lose, you're trying to win, or trying to at least win in small moments. And so the only way you can really do that when you're new, or when you're newer, is to use more strength, because if the other person outskills you, then it's kind of your only option. You try to use your skills, but you are also using a lot of strength, which is why the upper belts don't tire themselves out quite as quickly, because they don't have to use as much strength to win. But eventually this sort of goes away, because you start to improve in your technique. Even if you don't realize you're improving, you are improving over time, and so eventually this starts to go away. But there are some kids and even some adults, some adult white belts who like to go for these moves, and they do them on the smaller guys, and then they try it on the bigger guys, and then it doesn't work. Somebody who's closer to their size, and it doesn't work, or they do it on an upper belt and it just doesn't work. And against an upper belt, that totally makes sense that the other person probably has plenty of defenses and escapes and counters and all kinds of stuff. But to the other white belt who is just larger, it should work if it's a good enough technique. But the issue is that these neck cranks and stuff, these headlocks, really only work if you have a strength advantage. And then if you don't, then they don't work so much. I've seen this to be true not only with the adults, but also with the kids. When the kids who are used to neck cranking, the smaller kids, try to do it to kids of similar size, it just doesn't work. And what ends up happening is these smaller kids, and even the smaller adults, in the case of adults, will develop defense, just like I did. They'll develop defenses and escapes for these moves, while the larger people who are sort of counting on these moves to win them the submission, will, instead of improving their technique, they're sort of just relying on this and saying, well, maybe if I just gave it a little more power, maybe if I just crank on it a little bit harder, or maybe if I just crank on it a little bit sooner, then I'll be able to get it. And so they're not improving their offense as much as the smaller guy is improving their defense. And this is true, I would say, with pressure passing as well. That the larger guys tend to pressure pass, and it's because, they're heavier and stronger, and so it works out well for them originally at the beginning. And then eventually the smaller person who is on the bottom of, say, half guard, as the other guy's trying to pass, will start to develop their sweeps and their counters. They'll go to take the back. They'll leave, because the larger guy will oftentimes leave a big opening for an underhook. So the smaller guy on the bottom will be able to get their underhook, or they'll leave themselves open for a deep half guard to a backdoor escape, or they'll leave themselves open for sweeps. And it's because they sort of just try to get a hold of somebody and just sort of smash into them and just use that to get their legs free. And eventually, the smaller guy again will come up with a defense or a counter, while the larger guy is still relying on this to work. And then eventually it stops working, and then that's when they're going to start to see some real improvement in their game and in their techniques. And so I wouldn't say that it's wrong to use strength, and you definitely should be using strength and not making excuses for losing just because the other guy is stronger. You should be finding ways to get out, finding ways to defend, even if the guy is bigger than you, because, I don't know, in a real life situation, if you have to defend yourself against somebody or defend someone else, and you get into a scuffle with somebody, that you can't make the excuse of the other guy being larger. Or the other guy being stronger. And then if you go into an MMA fight or something, and you're of the same size, the same weight, but the other guy is more athletic than you can't make the excuse, oh boy, you're just more athletic than I am, or you're just stronger than I am. Because that's also on you as well, to improve your athleticism, to improve your strength, to improve your endurance. And so instead of making the excuse, working on a way around it is more important. And as the larger guy, instead of using these techniques are good to know, but I would say they're not good to rely on for those reasons, that it will hold you back, in that you'll rely on them while your opponents are developing defense, and then when their defense is good enough and your moves don't work anymore, then you're going to start working on improvements, because up until then you're just going to rely on the things that have been working for you. And that's just my bit of advice, I guess, but it's really more an observation. What I've seen with the kids, coaching kids class. I've been coaching it myself without any help for some time now, and also sparring with a lot of people who are quite a bit larger than I am. So I don't know. I hope this helps some of you out there, and maybe will get you to be more aware of when you're using strength because you need to, and when you're using strength as a band-aid, and whether you can find a different way around it, maybe a more proactive way. So anyway, I've been rambling long enough. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm sure a lot of you guys have run into this, larger guys, smaller guys. I'm sure you've all run into this. So let me know what your experience has been and what you would recommend. Because, of course, I'm not just a white belt anymore, but I'm still just a blue belt. So, you know, I don't have all the answers. And I still get murdered by my brown belts and black belts. So let me know in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.